and both would have had to agree for them to proceed any further. If they both agreed that it was a valid and properly formatted message, they would proceed further with their missile launch checklist. They would each go back to their seats and proceed with their checklist. Back at the commander's position, let me see if I can move over here a little bit. That telephone there, the commander would be on the phone with other launch control centers, the wing command post. This was not just occurring here at this launch control center. This was happening at Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri, Grand Forks, North Dakota, Minot, North Dakota, Great Falls, Montana, Cheyenne, Wyoming. This was happening at all these bases. And they would have been verifying and talking and making sure those messages were active. There were a series of lights here on the panel that you can't see. They were down here at the deputy's position as well, down near this old telephone dial there, and they would tell the status of launch and the status of, well, not launch, but the status of the whether the message was verified or not. And that was coming all the way down from the President of the United States. They had less than 30 minutes to react. Actually, well, the President had less than 30 minutes to react from the time he was notified. The crews would have to react within 5 minutes. Very short period of time. They would verify the message was accurate. The commander and deputy commander would come over here to the safe. They would open the safe. Each one had a padlock. They would undo the padlocks. Inside there would be 2 keys on lanyards. They would put the keys around their necks. The commander, there would be a code book in there. The commander would take the code book, would read off the codes. The deputy would verify that those codes matched with the orders that had come down from the President of the United States. Once those were verified, they were returned to their seats. All the time this is going on, they're again verifying that while the National Command Authorities, different bases, different headquarters are verifying that there indeed was a launch from the Soviet Union. Okay. Anybody want to hazard a guess? Let's go back to Strasbourg. What happens next after that? What do you think happens after that? We've got they're verifying right now. What happens after that? Both of these officers. I'm gonna go over here and pick up a book here. They each had these thick checklists right here. They're going through these checklists. By the way, this one's not classified. And they're making sure the message is valid. So Strasbourg, what do you think happens next?
They strap in their seatbelts.
They strap in their seatbelts. That is correct. Right here. Not very realistic. What this was for was if there was a nuclear missile attack here, there would have been violent violent earthquakes, violent ground shaking. And the idea is that this would provide them some survivability. They wouldn't be thrown from their chairs. But let me tell you, that was just for morale purposes. They would not have survived. And if you get the picture here with the missile launch control officers, the missileers, their only job was to launch the missiles. Big job. A lot of responsibility. That was their job. Once they performed that mission, that was it. The rest was, as they say, gravy. Okay. They're strapped into their seats. They at this point, they now receive an emergency war order message. The commander gives the order to insert keys into their keyholes. Deputy commander puts his in right there at his keyhole, and these are sealed at all times. There's classified seals covering. They're not playing with these things when they're on duty. Very, very serious down here. Deputy commander puts his in. They're going to wait again for some more of those lights here to light up, telling them that there has been a verification of the launch. The commander is then going to count down from 5. And on his mark, they're going to turn their keys simultaneously. All right. Haven't asked a question for a while of Medicine Valley. Medicine Valley, these two officers turn their keys. What happens?
They're guessing the missiles will launch.
Well, that's close. That's kind of a trick question. Let me tell you a little bit, Medicine Valley, what happens here. Before that happens, this crew commander over here, he's on the phone. He has to call another launch control center in the squadron, in the missile squadron here. Will you back me up? Will you back up my launch? And what he was asking them to do was to also verify that it was valid launch orders. There had to be at least one other crew of 2 missile launch control officers other than what was down here to verify there were valid launch orders in hand. They were running their checklist. Then they would turn their keys after this crew had done that. And what would happen after that? The red missile away light would light up. The crew down here knew that they were in World War III. Missiles were away. Missiles were in the air. And once those missiles were in the air, they couldn't be turned back. And that was part of the deterrent capability, again, to deter or detour anybody from fighting a nuclear war. It was pointless. It would be mutually assured destruction. Okay. All right, now, let's go back a little bit. What happens after that? We're in World War III. Let's go to, let's go back to Medicine Valley. What happens after they've launched their missiles?
Everyone's dead.
Okay, probably, yes. But I will say this. Let's go back up here to the front of the room. And I'll point over here. Right over here, there was a hatch. It was an escape hatch. And I'll tell you this, it was basically, I'll call it a morale hatch. There was 2 weeks of food stored under here, 2 weeks of water. And in that hatch, they climb up there. This one, Launch Control Center Delta 01, we are 31 feet below the surface of the Earth. There was 25 feet of sand. There was a crawl space there, an escape hatch. And the last 6 feet was dirt. They had a little shovel, and they would dig it out. Not very realistic. First of all, the hatch, they used to call it the deputy killer. And the reason they called it the deputy killer was because the commander over here would give the order for the deputy to crawl up there and open the hatch. Once they opened the hatch, all the sand would rush in, pinning them, killing them behind the hatch. It's a huge steel door. The deputy would be dead. The commander would pull his dead body down here and proceed to try to dig out. The other thing about that was the digging tool that they had to get out. Small little tiny garden shovel. Again, not realistic. Nobody expected to survive. You're not going to walk back to the base. The base is going to be a smoking hole in the ground. So, which leads me to another question, and I'm going to go over to Strasburg again. You guys are in North Dakota. Tell me why. Give me some reasons, and teachers help me out here. Why the missiles were put in the interior of the United States? Why weren't they in California or New York or someplace like that? Give me some reasons.
Population on